Contractor personnel are required to receive a basic orientation prior to working at the Mosinee mill. This orientation is a brief review of site-specific information and establishes the expectations for working at the mill. It is not a substitution for initial and ongoing training in federal and state rules and regulations provided by the contract company. All contractors performing work on site at the Mosinee mill will be required to receive this orientation at minimum every year. All non-mill personnel must log in and out through security. A temporary security badge will be issued to all contractors entering the mill. Contractors that perform work on a regular basis may submit an application for a permanent security badge. Contractors should park their vehicles in the lower part of the Mosinee mill parking lot. Contact your Mosinee mill job coordinator to determine parking and offloading inside the fenced-in area. Introduction, possession, or the use of drugs, alcohol, and explosives on Mosinee mill property is strictly prohibited. Firearms are also prohibited while on premises. Mosinee mill and its premises are a tobacco-free work site. This includes grounds, company vehicles, parking lots, and buildings. This policy applies to all employees and visitors. Chewing tobacco is also prohibited. Safety glasses with side shields are required to be worn upon entering the door at the facility and in all work areas. Glasses may be removed in office or break rooms. Glasses cannot be removed during breaks in work areas. Steel-toed shoes and hearing protection must be worn throughout the mill. Shirts with sleeves should be worn at all times. Pants must be extended to below the ankle. Shorts and hooded clothing is not allowed. Jewelry, including watches and wedding bands, are not allowed when visiting the mill. Exceptions include stud earrings and medical alert jewelry. All contractors are required to wear hard hats that comply with ANSI standard at all times. Hair longer than shoulder length must be secured up prior to entering the mill. Cell phones should be used in a safe area out of the way of construction tasks. No driving or using of equipment while using a cell phone. No walking in production or traffic areas while using a cell phone. It is the policy of Expera Specialty Solutions to provide a workplace free of harassment. Under no circumstances is this act acceptable, and contractors will be dismissed if they knowingly allow or participate in any such activity. If using a landline phone, dial 3400 for mill emergencies and 911 for fire and ambulance services. If using an outside line such as a cell phone, dial 715-693-2111, extension 3400 for mill emergencies, and 911 for fire and ambulance services. In the event of a medical emergency, visitors are required to dial 3400 and give the location of the emergency. Power department personnel will dispatch emergency medical services as necessary. You should immediately report injuries and illnesses to your Mosinee Mill job coordinator so treatment can be provided. Any OSHA recordable injuries will be properly reported. The contractor is responsible for completing an incident investigation report. A member of the Mosinee SOS team and your Mosinee Mill job coordinator will participate in that investigation. Any contractor who discovers a fire must report it to their Mosinee Mill job coordinator immediately and call 3400. The Mosinee Mill job coordinator will determine whether the fire can be extinguished or contained, or if evacuation is in order. If a fire is discovered, immediately report it to the power department at 3400. Then you can attempt to put out minor fires with a handheld fire extinguisher. Contractors are prohibited from using the facility's fire hoses. All chemical spills need to be reported to your Mosinee Mill job coordinator immediately. The job coordinator will be responsible for taking appropriate action. If evacuation is needed, an alarm followed by an instruction message will sound over the public address system. Follow the instructions and report to a safe rally location. The primary rally location is to the north of the mill in the north parking lot. The secondary rally location is to the east of the mill in the truck and trailer lot. All personnel are to remain in a rally spot until a formal head count is completed. At no time is anyone permitted to leave until instructed so by a Mosinee Mill official. Whenever severe weather is forecasted in the area, the guard will monitor the weather. In the event a tornado warning has been issued for Marathon County, the Guard will contact the Severe Weather Commander. Appropriate actions will be taken to determine if emergency shutdown procedures are to be taken. Upon notification to take shelter, all employees and contractors will report to their designated shelter areas. The Mosinee Mill Job Coordinator will provide you with information relating to storm shelters in your work area. The recovery boiler area and the lime kiln area are considered restricted. All persons entering these areas need to sign in the Power Department Control Room or the Alkali Control Room. The pulp mill digester area and Power Department are also restricted areas but do not require a sign-in. No access is allowed when lights and sirens are active. If you are in this area when lights are activated, please evacuate until the lights are no longer active. There are several areas in and around the paper machines that can be classified restricted due to formaldehyde levels of the grades being run. During these grade runs, there will be signage that notifies personnel of the restricted status. Contractors will not be allowed to work in these areas while the machine is in restricted status. Contact your job coordinator if you have questions regarding formaldehyde exposure. Only contractors that have been properly trained are allowed to work on the turpentine system. Contractors working on the system must be taken through a pre-job planning or safety walk prior to starting work. If contract work is required near the turpentine system, the contractor must be provided awareness training. Verification of training will be forwarded to the safety department. Plastic contamination of Mosinee's product can result in large quantities of paper that is not acceptable for sale. Extreme care must be taken to properly dispose of plastic materials. The use of silicone-based products is also prohibited. Visitors, vendors, and contract employees must place all waste materials into proper trash receptacles. Items such as electrical ties, food baggies, food and candy wrappers, and tape are of particular concern. Other recycling receptacles include blue drums for aluminum cans and red drums for plastic, glass, and metal containers. Some common items that cannot be placed in trash include batteries, aerosol cans, and light bulbs. The large green metal hoppers are not waste containers. Due to the risk of contamination of our product by flying insects, doors and windows without screens shall be maintained closed during bug season. Contractors cannot use Mosinee Mill tools and equipment without the job coordinator's permission. Powered industrial trucks must be operated according to OSHA consensus and mill standards. This includes the use of seatbelts, pre-use inspection, driving no faster than walking speeds, and stopping at posted intersections. When using aerial work platforms, a safe zone must be demarcated around the lift with cones or tape in order to ensure overhead hazards are minimized to passerbys and that a collision with a passing vehicle is minimized. Fall protection is required anytime aerial work is being performed. Fall protection is required when working at heights of 4 feet or more, including near the edge of a roof or when leaning over guardrails or past the frame ladders. You must notify your Mosinee Mill job coordinator prior to starting job tasks that require fall protection when you will be working in remote areas or alone. Metal and wood ladders are prohibited in the mill. Sitting or standing on the top 2 rungs of a ladder is prohibited. If overextending or reaching is required, scaffold or fall protection may be required to perform the job safely. Blue flags are used at railroad crossings to alert the rail crew that work is being performed on or across the tracks. Contractors should not park or perform work on railroad tracks unless a blue flag and derailleur have been placed on the track. Do not walk or stand under or beside suspended loads. Do not walk between the reel and winder when reels are being hoisted unless the roll is less than 1 foot from the floor. You cannot cross boundaries of moving equipment unless the equipment is locked out or unless you are trained and authorized to perform the task for which you are entering. The Mosinee Mill has established moving equipment boundaries, which include the use of painted lines, signs, barrier guards, and other methods. Contractor employees must be knowledgeable of appropriate work practices, emergency procedures, and personal protective equipment when working with hazardous chemicals. MSDSs for Mosinee Mill products are available. Contact your Mosinee Mill job coordinator if you need this information. The contractor should remove and properly dispose of all waste materials and chemicals at the completion of the job. Any excess chemicals that were brought on site for specific jobs should be removed when the task is completed. Contractor MSDSs need to be located on site at the time that the chemical is present. Any oil or fuel storage containers greater than 55 gallons need to be in a secondary containment. Notify your Mosinee Mill job coordinator of any chemicals brought on site for large jobs, such as more than 5 gallons of paint, floor or tile chest surfacing material, or roofing materials. The contractor must arrange hazardous waste disposal with the Mosinee Mill's Environmental Department or job coordinator in compliance with state and federal regulations. Contractors are responsible for disposal of their solid waste. Any oil or fuel stored where runoff could go into a storm sewer must have secondary containment regardless of the size of the container. Flammable liquids must be stored in approved safety cans. Flammable liquids in LP tanks must not be stored inside or on roofs. Compressed gas cylinders should be secured in a cart, or tanks must be capped and secured by positive means to prevent falling over. The Mosinee Mill lockout policy applies to all employees and contractors who perform service and/or maintenance to machines and equipment. The lockout form is kept with the lockbox. Lockouts will be performed by Mosinee Mill process owners. All contractors are responsible for checking the lockout sheet to make sure the equipment being worked under is covered under the lockbox. If you have any questions about a lockout, contact your Mosinee Mill job coordinator. Any lockout requiring 2 or more locks is a group lockout. All authorized employees must sign the lockout sheet when they put their lock on or take it off. Each individual must place their own personal lock through a hasp on the group lockbox. Each individual must remove their own lock once work has been completed. Under no circumstances will a contractor be able to work under another person's lock. Each individual lock must have a tag identifying the name of the person locking out, company name, and contact information. Remember to remove your lock prior to leaving Mosinee Mill premises. Any contractor forgetting to remove a personal lock will be required to make a return trip to remove their lock at the contractor's expense. Contractors shall not operate electrical disconnects or isolate energy sources without authorization from their Mosinee Mill job coordinator and the department in which the work is being performed. Try tests must be done on all equipment before any work begins to verify that all energy sources have been isolated. Department locks will only be applied after try tests have been completed. The Mosinee Mill line break policy must be followed whenever any sealed process system is opened for any reason. A Mosinee Mill confined space permit must be completed before any work may be done in a confined space. Contractors must use Mosinee Mill permits, however a secondary, contractor-specific form may be used in addition to the Mosinee Mill permit. Only work stated on the permit is to be done. Atmospheric testing must be performed in any confined space before entry and continuously monitored during occupancy. Contractors must supply their own atmospheric testing equipment. The entry supervisor is the employee responsible for coordinating the entry into the confined space. It is their responsibility to review the entry permit and to notify the confined space rescue team of the entry. The attendant is the person who remains outside the confined space and monitors the entrance. The attendant is required to have a means of contacting rescue services should an emergency arise. Attendants are not allowed to enter the confined space at any time. The entrant is the person who will physically enter the confined space to perform the work. Entrants are required to have a harness and retrieval rope on to aid in rescue if needed. It is the responsibility of the contractor to obtain a hot work permit from their Mosinee Mill job coordinator prior to any hot work being performed. Contractors are required for 1 hour fire watch after the job is complete to ensure all hazards have been eliminated. Any unknown insulation or other potential asbestos-containing material is to be treated as asbestos-containing material. Contractor personnel are prohibited from removing or disturbing material until the material has been determined to be asbestos-free. Before beginning any renovation or construction involving painted surfaces, the material must be tested for lead content. Contact your Mosinee Mill job coordinator to assist with this process. All paints used at the facility must be lead-free. Demolition activities and equipment removal should ensure that all remnant hazards are eliminated, such as bolts protruding from the floor and sharp edges. Accident prevention signs, signals, and barricades are to be used to notify personnel of hazards. Access to these areas must be in conformance with OSHA standards. Danger tags and tape shall indicate major hazard situations where an immediate hazard presents a threat of death or serious injury to employees. It is unacceptable for unauthorized personnel to cross danger tape. Caution tags and tape shall indicate minor hazard situations where a non-immediate hazard or unsafe practice presents a lesser threat of personal injury. It is unacceptable for unauthorized personnel to cross caution tape. The Mosinee mill contains radioactive mechanisms located on the 4 paper machines, the digester room, and the chip conveyor. The radiation in the mill is at low levels similar to X-rays. A blatant or serious safety violation may result in temporary or permanent termination of an individual or contract company. Thank you for your time and attention. Before starting any work, please print, complete, and return in the orientation verification attachment document. Thank you and have a safe day at Mosinee Mill.